Hello, welcome to another episode of Jim's Allotment Garden. Okay, so I'm just going to do a quick update on the birdhouse gourds. Now that's what basically that's what the seeds look like. I don't know if you can see that. And basically what you've got is these two little sort of ears, if you like, on the top. Now, having looked at Bernadette's videos, what she actually suggests is you take these off. Now what you can do is just get some small sort of nail scissors and you can just trim off the those two ears, and that's supposed to help with germination. If you need to be careful, you only want to take just a little teeny bit off. So that's one I've done. There's another one here, and I'm going to put these in green pots so I can tell them apart from the others. So I'm just going to do a quick experiment to see which one comes out the best. So that's them two done. The other way you can do it is if you get just a piece of sandpaper. It's just an old sanding disc that I had up here. And what you can do is just by holding the seed, what you can do is just sand off the corners like that. So if you haven't got any scissors, you know, you can sort of sand it off like that. So you end up with the two corners sanded off. And apparently that helps with germination. So I'm going to give that a go. Obviously it's quicker just to trim them off. So I'm just going to do the last one now. Obviously, you know, if you've got a bit of sandpaper, you can do it with that, or just with a pair of scissors. Just trim off those corners like that. And what I'll do is I'll put these next to the others. The other ones have been in a week already, but they haven't shown themselves as of yet. So what I'll do is I'll just give these a bit of water, some tap water, and I'll put these with the others, and we'll see which ones come out first. So as you can see, this nice warm weather we're having has brought on the kale no end. Now, really, when they get to this stage, you know, as soon as you can grab hold of them, really, it's ideal to prick them out. Now, I don't know if you can see, but if you look between these are the seed leaves, the two little sort of roundish leaves. Now, in the middle there, just bring that up to the camera. I don't know if you can see, but in here you can see the true leaves starting to come out. That's most certainly a good sign to say, you know, it's time to prick them out. Now, it's at this time of the year you most certainly will start to run out of room inside your greenhouse. So what you need to do is think about you know, sort of most economical use of the room that you've got in your greenhouse. Now, there's a number of things you can do to maximise that, and the one thing is using square pots. There's two good reasons for using square pots, most certainly for brassicas. The first reason is that the roots won't sort of go round and round and round and sort of generate a ball of roots if they become pot bound. So what they'll do is it'll tend to make the roots go down. But the second advantage to using these square pots is they will stack together really efficiently. So if you imagine, you know, the sort of the pots being sort of together like that. You know, I've got 8 pots there really close together. If I was to use round pots, obviously, you know, you'd be losing all of that space in between them where the you know, where the round pots come together. So if you use these square pots, there's a number of places you can get them from, but I bought these predominantly from Wilko's. And if you look at them, there's sort of £1 for I think there's 12 in there. Yeah, there's 12 square pots there for £1. These are worth the weight in gold. They really are. If you want to you know, sort of grow loads of vegetables like I do, these are most certainly the most efficient use of space in the greenhouse. And also I would recommend these for the majority of plants, because the roots will tend to go down rather than round and round as they do in a round pot. So, how to prick out. Now, the one thing you need to remember when you're pricking out, and this is the golden rule basically, leaves can grow again, roots can grow again, but if you damage the stem on the plant, that is not going to recover. So always never pull the seedling out by its stalk, because the shoot, because that's the way it can be damaged. So what I always do is with one finger gently go underneath the seedlings and just lift them up like that. Then what that'll do is just release it from the ground. Then by pinching the two seed leaves together, I don't know if you can see that, but I'm grabbing it with the two seed leaves, just gently pull it up, and what you'll get is the seedling and its root system. Then make a hole in your pot with your finger, just drop it in like that, and this is one of the most therapeutic jobs in the allotment, I think. Give it a quick tap like that, and now what you want to do is plant it so it's at roughly the same level as it was in the tray. That's that one done. Now, as you can see, there's going to be quite a few of these to do, so if you get two coming out like that, I've sort of pulled them out as best I can just by touching the roots. The roots will mend if they're damaged, but by holding the leaves, just tease them apart as gentle as you can possibly be, and then you can get into a bit of a routine. What you can do is sort of juggle them up and down a little bit like that, just to get the roots in place. But the best tool that you possibly have in your greenhouse are your hands. So you know, you've got everything you could possibly need really with your hands, to be honest with you. You can do most things like that. So just drop it in like that, so it's at the same kind of height as it was in the tray. Nice and firm. Obviously brassicas do like it firm. You don't need it too firm, but you want it reasonably firm. Now as soon as you've got these in, you need to realise that you have potentially got some root damage on there, so you most certainly need to keep these as watered as you possibly can. So that's got a good little root ball on it, so I need to make the hole slightly bigger in there. Drop him in. Now what you do find with some brassicas, I don't know why, but with some brassicas you get this sort of bendy stalk. So this plant here I may well reject when I put it out, but I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt for now. I'm going to put it in there. But what you want to be doing, if you have got more seedlings than you need, what you want to be looking for is the ones that are nice and straight and healthy. Any that are sort of bent, over to one side, which you can get with brassicas. If you have got too many, this is the time to reject them. So exactly the same way. So all I've got to do now is carry on with these, get all of these potted up. If there are any smaller ones in there's no reason why you can't pot them up. As long as you've got the leaves are out, there's no reason why you can't pot that on. Obviously, make sure if you've got more than one type of kale or brassica, make sure you keep the label with them so you know what's going on, and then stack them in your greenhouse. But as I say, it is kind of this time of the year where you start to run out of room in the greenhouse, because you've got so many things going on at this time of year. So please do think about getting these square pots and try to stack them in as much as you can. And the other thing to consider as well is you only need as many plants as you will grow. If you've got any additional ones, prick out the ones that you need, and then sort of give the others away to one of your neighbour allotmenteers, and they'll be more than grateful for you giving the the seedlings to them, because they may well give you something back in return. So it's all good, and that's the best thing about gardening. You can share what you've been growing. Okay, so I'm going to take a fly. I'm going to put some of the gourds in now. Obviously there's going to be a number of gourds that I'm going to be growing this year. This is just 3 of them. So the first one, which is always a winner, is Courgette, and this is goldener. And I just want to, I'm putting 3 of them in together so you can actually see how similar the seeds are. Now, as you can see, the seeds look like that. So they're quite flat. Now what I always do is put the seeds in, sort of, if you hold it flat and then push it into the compost around an inch or so down. I don't know if you can see that, and then just knock the soil around. Leave the ground reasonably, the compost reasonably loose around there, The germination rate on these are pretty good, so you only really need to put one seed in each of the pots, and it is literally as simple as that. So that's three courgettes. I'm not going to be growing too many, not as many as I did last year anyway. The next one is butternut squash. Now this is called winter butternut butterfly F1. This is from the Country Value range. I'll just show you exactly what these seeds look like. Now you typically don't get so many seeds, but as you can see these are slightly bigger, but basically the seeds are exactly the same. And you plant them in exactly the same way, push them down about 1.5 inches into the compost, like that. Knock the soil back over them, give them a bit of a firm. As I say, you don't need to get the soil too firm. The water will do most of that for you. So those are the butternut squashes. And the third type, pumpkins. Now they're all the same plant pretty much. So as you can imagine, all the seeds are going to be pretty much the same. Now pumpkin seeds are most certainly bigger. So as you can see, they're that much bigger. But in exactly the same way, if I just move these out of the way for a moment, and I'll bring these pots so you can actually see what I'm doing. In exactly the same way, all I'm doing is grabbing the seed like that, flat wide, pushing it in like that into the compost, and then all you need to do is just knock the compost back over it, give it a bit of a pad. So good. So bob them in like that, knock the soil back. This is literally as quick as that. You don't need to be too fussy with these. As I say, I wouldn't recommend you putting any more than one seed in a pot. If it doesn't germinate, you can always put another one in a couple of weeks' time. But these will germinate pretty quickly, and you'll know when they have, because obviously they're quite big with big leaves on. So we've got 4 pumpkins, 4 butternut squashes, and 4 courgette plants. I may well put a few more courgette plants in, but just to explain what I'm going to do now, I'll just get these out of the way. So I'm just making sure I don't mix them up before I mark them. So I'll put the pumpkins down underneath. So what I'm going to do is put them inside one of these trays which I bought from Wilko's last year. So all of this comes from Wilko's. These are 12 for £1, these black pots. Highly recommended. And these trays also come from Wilko's as well. These are also, I think they're £1 as well, and you get the little top to go over the top. Now it's like a small sort of propagator kind of thing. Now what you actually get with them is a load of these little sort of trays which sit quite nicely in there, but these are too small for things like pumpkins and that. So what I'm going to do is just put them in these bigger pots. I should be able to get 6 pots in there, so between 2 of them I'll be able to do that, and I'll leave them in here. Obviously you need to keep them warm till they germinate. As soon as you start to see the leaves coming, then I would then whip off the top and then let them grow on. The one thing you need to be careful of though is if we do get a bit of frost, you're most certainly going to need to protect these, otherwise the frost will kill them. So if we are in danger of getting a little bit of frost, just come up to your greenhouse and put a bit of fleece over them, or take them into the house, or whatever, but just make sure they are kept frost free. One quick tip: this time of year it doesn't take stuff long to come up. As you can see, the Nicandra here has all started to shoot. You can see the little shoots here, they've all grown here as well. But the tomatoes, I don't know if you can see through there, that's Moneymaker, and that was just touching the glass. Now if it touches the glass, it's also going to get damaged. It's the only one so far to germinate, or at least pop its head out. Now I've just had a look at the others, and the Rainbow F1 has got one come through. But the point I just want to make is keep your eye out. As soon as one comes out, what you need to do, I'll put a little block of wood under there. Make sure the glass comes off, otherwise you'll damage the seed leaves on there. So just make sure you've got a bit of clearance between the seedling and the glass. You don't want the seedling to touch the glass; it'll get scorched. So as you know, I've already put the onions out, but the one thing that I always do every year is just to edge my beds. I don't know why, but you always tend to get a few onions that fail in the ground, or they just don't grow particularly well. So what I always do is I always put some on one side. So these are just basically the onions that I had left over from putting the rows outside. Now you can start your onions off like this. I've always thought it was a bit too much of a faff to do all of them, to be honest with you. And I've put 10 rows in, and there's 42 onions in each row, so that's 420 onions I've put in the ground so far. I am going to put another row or two in. I've got some more here, which I'll be putting in. Those are the turbo. But these ones here that I've got left over, which is the Sturron, I think you pronounce the type. All I'm going to do is bob them in these little cells, and then what I can do is you just need to put them in like you are on the ground. Obviously you don't need to worry about the birds, so just bob them in so they're kind of like that. And it's a reasonably quick job. Just put a bit of compost in here, a bit of seed compost. This is the clover compost. You don't need to worry about, because it's only compost, you're not going to damage the root system. Get yourself some healthy onions, and then just bob them in like that. Now these will tend to push themselves out slightly as they're developing, but all I do is I just fill a tray like this, and then if any fail in the line in the rows, what I can do then is I can just pull one of these out. They'll get a head start in here, and what I can do is just pull them out of here and then just bob them in the row if any of the ones in the row have you know, sort of not grown particularly well for whatever reason. And if they all do come true, you could potentially put another row in with these. I mean, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's 40 onions in here. So I've basically got a row's worth in here anyway. But if you just bob these in, it kind of edges your bet. As I say, there are people that I know that actually put the onions in like this, start them off in the greenhouse, and you know, and then put them in the, put them out the ground as soon as they've sort of, started to grow. Now, onions are reasonably hardy against frost and stuff like that, so there's no reason why you can't put them out quite early on. Obviously, Japanese onions, they go straight through the winter and just keep on growing. But one thing that you can most certainly say with onions is when it comes to August, they will most certainly stop growing. So the sooner you get them in, the bigger onions you're going to get. So it's within your interest to get them in the ground as potentially early as you can. Now I always like to get the ground prepared before I put the onions in, and that's always dictated on when the brassicas have finished and sort of come out. Now these ones in here I'm not overly happy with, so I'm going to get some of these last few will just be turbo, so they're all the same type of onion anyway, so it doesn't really matter too much. So as I say, fill a tray up like this. If you do want to get really early, really early start on your onions, there's no reason why you can't do this with all of them. However, obviously, you're going to be using a reasonable amount of compost to do this if you do them on all, and they can be slightly more faffy to do them like this if you're putting them out. But I don't do it that way, but I know people who do. So all you got to do with this now is leave it in the greenhouse, give them a bit of water, obviously, leave them in the greenhouse, and then as soon as they grow to on a sort of 4 inches high, before they get pot bound, because obviously they've not got too much soil in there, then check your lines, check that they've all come, your rows of onions out in the allotment. If any haven't come through particularly well, whip them out and bob one of these in, and then you'll have nice full rows of onions. So just a quick update in the greenhouse. I've had a bit of a problem. This is a mouse that's done this. I've obviously had a mouse in the greenhouse, as you can see on the Nicandra as well. He's been through there and made a bit of a mess. And you can see some little dig marks over here in the beetroot seeds that I put in. So I've clearly got a mouse in the greenhouse now. Hopefully, with this warm weather, he'll leave the greenhouse and go out into the garden. If he does persist and cause any further damage, I'm afraid I'm going to have to take more drastic measures. I might need to have to bring the cat up and put him in the greenhouse for half an hour. But I don't really want to trap him. Obviously, if I can get away with him leaving the greenhouse and not causing any more damage. But the one thing that you can do, obviously, with with plants, is bring them up onto sort of higher surfaces, sort of put them over here or something like that. But even this, I mean, mice will scale up things and sort of get on here anyway. But obviously cloches and stuff like that, these sort of things will protect, sort of protects you against sort of mice getting in there as well. But they can be a bit of a pest. It's not too detrimental because they've just damaged a few of the sweet peas. And that's, so I'm not overly concerned about it. But if he does cause any more damage, I think I'm going to have to have a look and see what we can do with him. Really quick tip: this time of year, always keep your the compost you're about to use in the greenhouse, because if you leave it outside, obviously it's going to be wet, it's going to be cold. Now this has been in overnight, and even though it's still quite wet, it's nice and warm. It's had a chance to warm up over the night, sort of yesterday and and today. So if you are about to use some compost, bring the bag of compost into your greenhouse, and the day before also, before you're going to use it. Then it'll have a chance to warm up, and then when you put your seedlings into it, or your seeds or wherever, they won't be shocked by the cold temperature. Oh, on to beetroots. Now I'm going to be growing a couple of varieties of beetroot this year. This is one from King Seeds, and I got this from the Allotment site. Now these can be sown out in early March, so I most certainly know I'm okay to start sort of planting out. Now what I'm going to do is, traditionally what I do with beetroot is I'll sow these directly into the ground. I don't normally bother with this, but what I'm going to do is a little experiment. I'm going to be planting some in these cells. Now these have most certainly seen better days. They're just about perished, to be honest with you. So I think this will be the last year I'll be using these. I'll be buying some more next trip to Wilco's. I think I'll get a few more of these. But beetroot seeds are look a little bit like it always reminds me of muesli, to be honest with you, but it's kind of funky little shapes. Look a little bit like cork. Now it says on the seed packet here to plant it in a drill. Obviously that's the traditional way of doing it. So what I'm going to be doing here is it says plant it ½ an inch deep. So what I'm going to do is just make, I don't know, I'll just do it with my finger, I think. I'm just going to make an indentation in each of these little cells quickly, like that. Now the reason for making an indentation is so that when I drop the seed in there, the seed goes to the middle of the cell. That's basically the sort of the logic behind that. I don't know why, but that one's quite hard. So if you watch now, if I drop a seed in like that, it's going to end up in the middle. It's going to end up in the middle of the cell, about ½ an inch down. So what I'm going to do is just basically very quickly drop a seed in each one of these. As you can see now, I've made the hole in there. It quite naturally falls to the centre of the centre of each of these cells. Now, what I'll do is with beetroot, what you want to do is, because beetroot is essentially a root vegetable. Need to make sure I've only got one seed in each one of these, because what I don't want to be doing is thinning them out. And what I'll do is I'll take them out of these cells and put them straight in the ground, and then I'll also be sowing some directly into the ground as well, just as a sort of comparison. Now I believe that growing them like this, they may well get a better start. As I say, I've not grown them in this manner before. What I always do is sow them straight into the ground, and I've always had a reasonable amount of success in the past. So I'm just finishing off these last few here, making sure I haven't got any more than one seed in each of the cells. I think I've got one in each. If there's one in there, no, I need one more. Right, so I've got one seed in each of the cells. So what I'm going to do now is basically just cover them over with a bit of compost. No messing about, straight in there. And obviously what I want to do is make sure that the seeds are in contact with the compost. So I'm just going to press each one down, 2 fingers this time, just to make sure that they're nice and you know, there's no air pockets or anything like that, because if there's an air pocket the seed can go kind of get mildew on it and stuff like that, so it won't grow very well. So just clear that up. Now again, I'm going to put some clean, I need a bit more water, but this is just clean tap water running through the bottle. It's going to get a bit more. So because they're an inch down, obviously you need a reasonable amount of water in there. So all I need to do now is label them up, and I'll show you in a couple of weeks' time how they're getting on. I'm going to keep the rest, so I want the same variety, so I can make a straight comparison, and I'll put the 2 rows together, so I can compare them starting like this and starting like, you know, straight in the ground, and that could be one of the experiments for this year. So I'm afraid that's all we've got time for today. Don't hesitate to put any comments or questions you've got below, and I'll always get back to you, and I'll see you on the next episode. Cheers, love, and garden.